album represented. But we were happy enough just to have the new recording on that album in those days. But it's absolutely a wonderful job to be able to reinvent and re-release product for Sony. And I think the beauty of working on this Madison Square Garden project is at long last we were able to represent what those shows really stood for, and that was a fantastic event in Elvis's life in 1972. So in order to do that, we talked to the fans, we talked to people who took photographs at the concerts. We discussed and met up with George Galinsky, who was the in-house photographer for Madison Square Garden. And George told me a wonderful story, because he photographed just about everybody that you could ever mention that went through Madison Square Garden, from Sinatra to Springsteen, anybody. But the only reason he went there that evening to the Elvis Presley concert was because his wife wanted to see Elvis. And the only way that George Galinsky could get in without having to part with any money for the tickets was to take photographs as an employee. So that's a great story. So we wouldn't have any pictures at all if it hadn't have been for George Galinsky's wife. Anyway, the classic image for the front of our new box set is a George Galinsky photograph, and it's an iconic image. But also, there were loads of other photographers, fans at the show, and part of my job is to make contact and reach out to wonderful people like yourselves and just get pictures from each of the individual concerts so that we can give a real good representation of what Elvis looked like at each show. And also in the booklet we have a transcription of excerpts from the press conference, which is also included on the DVD, part of our program. But overall, we just have a wonderful visual representation of Elvis as he appeared at Madison Square Garden. So I hope you're going to love the book. Thank you.
And hopefully out there, and if you don't have it, you'll get it when you leave, because you were smart enough to come to this, and it was free. You'll get a Madison Square Garden, you'll get the Prince from Another Planet pin, button. And the image that's on this button, I was in New York recently, and I don't know if it's still there or not, but there's a giant billboard over Times Square with this image on it of Elvis. And here's the cool part. Right next to it was a billboard for the musical Memphis. And I thought, how appropriate. And as I always do when I'm traveling and I see an image of Elvis, I just walk along and I go, hey Elvis, and just continue on my way. But that's a really cool image that you guys have used. Now, when this box comes out, what's inside? What are we getting?
Well, for the box set version, we decided to take both shows, because obviously the first show came out in '72, and it was really rush released. It came out in about a month after the show, so they kind of just recorded it, mixed it, pressed it on vinyl, and you were able to get it right away. And then obviously the afternoon show came out in the CD era and was treated as its own thing, Afternoon at the Garden. You know, and they kind of didn't really go together. They didn't seem like you were there. The original recording, I think we thought was you felt very close, almost like a studio recording. The band was pretty subdued. It didn't seem like you were in an arena with 20,000 people going crazy that this guy was here.
Was that released in '72? Was it released at a wrong speed? Was it mastered incorrectly? I've always heard fans talking about they thought it was sped up.
It isn't sped up. If we played the original 16-track tapes, unless they messed around when they actually recorded it, and I don't have the ear to say whether the notes are 100%. Some people here probably do, but I don't think it's sped up. But Ronnie Todd used to tell that story. I think they were just overexcited all of a sudden and played very fast.
I always thought that album, they hit the stage and it's just driving. The whole show just sounds, it almost sounds like he's trying to hit I've got to be out of here in 1 hour exactly, so let's go. I mean, it just sounds intense.
Yeah, there was a lot of expectation from him, because he was going back to New York for the first time since the Ed Sullivan shows and the stage show, television, and recording there for RCA the first time. So we talked to some of the guys that were around, and there was definitely this feeling of, okay, I got to go back there. We're on tour now. We've played, Buffalo and, everywhere else, but it's like now we got to go back to New York City where sort of it all happened in the first place. So he definitely was like, I got it. This has to be the best thing I've ever done. And, Joe Gercio was allowed to get extra players and, the real Broadway, amazing string players and horn players. And he talks about that a little bit on the DVD program. And, it's sort of like they really knew that this was it,
Yeah. Now I interrupted you. You were talking about how the first album was close and they didn't go together. So what did you guys do with that?
So our good friend Mr. Rob Santos, who's here somewhere, he went and worked with a mixing engineer named Michael Brower, who does Coldplay records and John Mayer records, and is a really great live mixing guy. And he said, okay, well, let's put you right in the middle of Madison Square Garden, right in like the 20th row, and just feel like, oh my gosh, this is like 4 sold-out shows. Everyone was super excited to see Elvis, and it just sounds amazing and huge. And what we were able to do was, obviously, once we had this footage from the afternoon show, we took the new mix and put the two things together. And once, we saw the film and you heard the audio, but once you put the two things together, it was like, oh my God.
Yeah. And so we're going to get that in the big release.
Oh yes.
All right. Now, was the film? Did the film have audio?
The film was silent.
No, the film was silent, but you can sync it up. I mean, you just start and you see what matches. It takes a while. I mean, I think we spent a week trying to figure out the pieces of how to do that. And we also had a speed issue on the film, that it ran faster than it should. But these are actually mechanical things that are not too complicated to fix. We would obviously have wanted him to film the whole bloody hour, but I don't think he did that
Yeah, he was using a sort of a camera you could buy in a store, and they had cartridges in them that are about 3 minutes. So he would have to take the cartridge out, dig around, get a new one, put it in, keep going. So what we have is about 22, 23 minutes of the footage, which we've laid over the hour-long show. So what you're going to get when you see the show are actually black holes where the film doesn't exist. But what we wanted to do was just give you everything that there is and not hold anything back. And you even see, like, on the side, the little window where the sprockets go through the film thing, because there's a little bit more picture hanging out there on the side. That, it'll be slightly weird, and when we show you a little bit of it later, you'll see in Proud Mary there's a little black hole where he had to go down and reach and get a new piece of film, because it was a one-man operation for sure.
And where were Sony and Red and the guys? Were security let this guy shoot with a camera out in the audience? I mean, I would have thought a mafia member would have taken him down.
Well, I'll expand on that story, because remember I told you that we bought these rehearsal tapes. You know what that guy did? He worked at the Hilton. He walked into the rehearsal room while Elvis and his band was in there. Nobody else was there. Put his tape recorder on the table, taped the show, and walked out again. So this guy really knew how you could do stuff.
Well, I'm glad he broke the law at the time. So we're the beneficiary later. Is there anything else you guys want to say? I want to go to the film, and then we're going to take some questions, because I've been asking questions all week. I want to see if anybody out here has any questions about this project and maybe about any other of Elvis's catalog of music and things, and we'll do that. But if there's do you guys want anything else to set up this project?
I think we're good to show the film now. Just give a break and sneak out here so we can see it as well.
Can we make it as dark as possible, just to turn it